Welcome everyone. For those that don't know me, my name's Paul Reynolds. I'm the current chair of the Urban Design Group. And thank you all for coming and welcome to Ipswich. I just want to welcome our first speaker. I'm very pleased to say that the Deputy Mayor has joined us, Councillor Pat Bruce-Browne, and I'd like to invite her to come up and just give us a bit of a welcome and introduction to Ipswich. Thank you.
Long walk to this mic, isn't it? Oh, Lord. Hello, good morning. As my very nicely introduction, yes, I'm Patricia Bruce-Browne, Deputy. That light is right in my eye, sorry. The Deputy Mayor of Ipswich. Maybe Mayor next year, maybe. But anyway, who knows? But on behalf of the town, I'm very pleased to welcome you all to Ipswich. This year, Ipswich is celebrating 825 years since it was granted its charter by King John, who has a fair bit of history. Indeed, now that Colchester is once again a city, we are undisputedly the oldest continually inhabited town in the country. Our town is home to many buildings which date back to at least Tudor times. A particular fine example is Christchurch Mansion, where I believe you are going for drinks reception this evening. I'm sure you agree that it shows the commitment of some of our forebearers to a high-quality urban design. Ipswich has, of course, developed considerably in the past 500 years, and the town boasts many fine modern buildings. The Willis Building is rightly famous, and I was pleased earlier this year to attend its 50th anniversary. It's an amazing building inside. If you get a chance, you should go and see. The waterfront has also been developed over the last few decades, changing its role from a working dock to a fine leisure, academic and residential area. We will of course never finish developing Ipswich, as needs will continue to change in ways that we may not be able to even anticipate today. I am pleased therefore that the conference such as this takes place, as they will help to ensure that whatever our town needs to adapt, they are designed to meet those needs well, whilst also representing and adding to their surroundings. Thank you very much for inviting me today, and I hope that you all have a lovely time here in Ipswich. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, and hopefully, I know not everyone's joining us for dinner tonight, but hopefully everyone will have a chance over the next day or two to have a walk around, have an explore between the different days of the conference and stuff. There is a lot to see. I think those that we got here last night and had the walk up through town, it was fascinating to see the kind of juxtaposition of old and new, very old and new buildings as you walk around the town. It's really fascinating. Okay, well with that, I will hand over to Todd, who is our kind of local host and has been a fantastic asset in trying to organise today's events, to lead our first session and find out a bit more about Ipswich and what's happening. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, and it is very bright. Thank you very much, Paul, our chair, and thank you again very much, Madam Deputy Mayor, for giving us that welcome. There were about 20 or so of us last night at the new food hall on Tower Street, and just and also some of those people had never been to Ipswich before, and chats with just two sort of almost summarized the situation, in a nutshell of describing Ipswich. One said, "Wow, it's much bigger and so much nicer than I thought, and that waterfront is amazing." And then another person said, "I need to have a word with your engineers, and I didn't know how to get here, and it's a mess." And so hopefully you, in your couple of days in Ipswich, we'd like to think that you'll see more of the former and less of the latter, but so allow me to just do a little further introduction to the town. What can one say in 5 minutes or indeed even an hour, including the following speakers, that sums up our town, gives a glimpse of 1,500 years of history and the great things about Ipswich and the leadership that it takes to get us into the future. But I'll have a go. As Deputy Mayor mentioned, oldest continuously inhabited town. The street pattern that started to emerge in the 600s is still recognizable, but obviously with quite a few changes. Where we are sitting right now was mud a few hundred years ago, and like all places, the urban form has changed really quite substantially. There's been a bridge at Stoke Bridge for 1,000 years, but the earliest crossing point was roughly where you entered the building this morning. Fast forward a bit, and the opening of the wet dock in 1842, plus the railway 4 years later, just absolutely turbocharged the industrial development of the town. So we went from that to that in a very short space of time. 700 listed buildings with real gems, including two of our venues, the Mansion for drinks tonight and the Willis Building tomorrow night. Do book for Willis Building if you haven't done so already, because there are, for management issues relating to the building, it's limited capacity. So we have our successfully regenerated mixed-use waterfront. Still some work to do, but on a sunny day, it's the Med, promise. We have 6 Arts Council-funded nationally important arts organizations, plus our museum, the Regent Theatre. We've got venues in medieval churches and in a converted swimming pool, which was good enough for Led Zeppelin. We also have some amazing independent streets. This is snapshots from St. Peter and St. Nicholas Street, what we call the Saints, and that's the best walking route from here up towards the main part of the town centre. And along that street, there are very few vacancies and very, very few multiple businesses. Proud of our incredible diversity. The largest groups are Indian, Bangladeshi, Polish, Romanian, also Kurdish, Portuguese. Head to Norwich Road for the Pastiche Donata. University of Suffolk, one of the country's youngest, is just along the waterfront. And upstairs, there are a few displays from last year's Year 3 architecture students. So please go upstairs and have a look at those. And also, not to forget, birthplace of Thomas Wolsey. You'll hear a bit more about him in a sec, and Ralph Fiennes. And we were the essential incubator for such disparate talents as Thomas Gainsborough, Margaret Catchpole, and that redhead Ed Sheeran. But we do have our problems. One by one, well-paying industrial employers were subject to mergers and acquisitions, and Ipswich always seemed to be on the losing side. We have a very strong professional services sector, although overall Ipswich has a relatively low wage and low skill economy and low social mobility. 1960s Inner Ring Road was thankfully cut short, but then a compromised 1980s gyratory severs the town centre from the waterfront, contributing to poor air quality, and many of the sites cleared at the time are still underutilised, or to use that professional urban design term, just really ugly 40 years later. Like most towns, we're dealing with national, international trends, including significant town centre retail vacancies, some that have been like that for 10 years or more, and office workers coming in much less. On the bottom right is the old County Hall, which has been empty for 21 years. Despite being only an hour by train from London or Cambridge, there's relatively little construction in the central area compared with our peers. And we have vast areas, in my view, devoted to surface parking, and yet folks always complain about parking. If I can give a nod to the Borough Council, Ipswich has been a leader in developing council housing again, really significantly proportioned for the size, and they're really good buildings, well-designed schemes that sit on their streets in the right way. The council also transformed the Cornhill, slightly out of sync in my slides, the Cornhill, the main public square a few years ago. Controversial for some locally, but it's now a much more flexible, dynamic open space and venue with programming by our business improvement district, Ipswich Central. And they brought back to life 2 essential buildings that now give life to the square. So why Ipswich for this conference? I reel these things off because we're proud of the place, but to be honest, I hope that any of you would be able to recite a similar list of your own places and things that you're proud of and things that you'd like to work on. But seriously, one of the attractions to my urban design group colleagues of having the conference here is precisely because smaller and medium places share many of the problems and opportunities that Ipswich has. So how do we make them vibrant places where people want to linger and invest and live? How do we protect and nurture what's best and unique, welcoming the new and the innovative? And how do we deliver design quality for everyone? So I'll start to wrap up and to make some introductions. So I turn to leadership and trust, and something that we're very proud of, that we reckon is unique, very special to Ipswich, at the same time absolutely has lessons for how we see and understand our towns and cities, how we trust and have confidence in our citizens, and especially in our young people. Ipswich is the UK's first town of youth social action, finding out what young people care about in their communities, enabling local action around those priorities, and getting the young people to create new solutions. Many organizations have signed up to the Power of Youth Charter, including backing from the councils and from the MP, Jack Abbott. This is reinforced by the Ipswich Social Mobility Alliance, which grew out of an educational opportunity area and is now a partnership with a 25-year strategy for a generation of change. We have many local dynamic organizations with youth as a key focus, some new, some much older and working in the sphere well before we coined the kind of current terms of I Will and youth social action. But some of the best leaders in this sphere are on stage with us this morning, and they will tell it far better than me. So we have directors Kath of the Wolsey 550 project and Rebekah Warnock of 4YP, together with Nikki Collier and Matthew Ford. So our places need leaders, and here are 4 amazing ones that will show you how we do it in Ipswich. And so with that, over to Kath.
It's bright. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about the Wolsey 550 project and the work of our Place Changers group. Cardinal Thomas Wolsey was one of the most important figures of the medieval era, working closely with King Henry VIII on the world stage. Born in Ipswich just over 550 years ago, he started life from humble beginnings, like many of the school children in our town today. Thomas Wolsey 550 is a placemaking project that was initiated by Ipswich Central, which Todd mentioned, which is the town's business improvement district. Until now, no legacy had been created in Ipswich, really, which befits the achievements of the town's most famous son. So Wolsey 550 Place Changers is a project that is part of that wider programme. Instead of asking children and young people to learn all about Wolsey's historic achievements, we engage them by focusing on his personality, his confidence, and his get-up-and-go attitude. We created confidence-building workshops and experiences for every single primary and secondary school child in Ipswich, and then we offered young people aged 14 to 21 opportunities to help shape their town as a Wolsey 550 place changer. And here is one of them now, Nikki Lee, to talk about her experiences.
Good morning. This is pretty nerve-wracking, guys. This is my first ever thing like this. I'm just going to start by actually reading the bio that I wrote for this. So some of you may have heard this before, but some of you may have not. Getting something given to you can be far and few between for many of us, but social projects like what we've done here, I think, truly give back. They equipped young people with the power of expression, the power of importance, and the power of impact, all by just walking into a classroom. And I think that's a really nice underpinning of some things I'm going to explain now. So I'm going to go through actually what I did. So I got involved when I was a teenager. I think I was about 17 when I first started getting involved. My projects that I worked on in particular were multiple year groups coming together to renovate abandoned, boarded-up shop fronts, which is an increasing problem. If you go for a walk about Ipswich, which I'm sure many of you will, you'll see the death of the high street is happening here. Oh, sorry, can none of you hear me? We designed, then we pitched to Joel Millerchip, who is a wonderful creative, also local, and he helped us achieve our first project. And this gave us opportunities and experiences so that we could run a project completely on our own. So it was something that was developing. My favourite part was actually the pitching. I mean, I'd never been in a scenario where my ideas weren't up for discussion to critique or to improve them, but to actually sell your vision as something that is good and having to convince others of that was really challenging. But as you can see, I've gone on with a bit more confidence and reassurance in my skill set. And when something like this comes up, I can go, okay, I've done all right in X, Y, and Z, and maybe I can take this on if I dig deep. I think social projects are like a subtle embedding of confidence through experience. It's a gift, and I think it's actually a necessity for young people. This general concept is what I based my mural piece off. I chose a thistle as a sort of emblem for overcoming challenges. You know, what can flourish from rocky starts? A thistle is like a spindly, brittle, prickly plant, but even so, once summer comes, it blooms beautiful flowers with an abundance of petals, just like all the others in the field. I'm going to go on a bit about why I actually wanted to get involved. You know, it's a question we get asked a lot with the demographic. How do you get involvement in teenagers? But I think the question is more how I got involved rather than why. And it's because it was really, really easy for me. You know, accessibility isn't just a buzzword, especially for projects involving volunteering. Travel costs and simplicity were two key aspects that not only gave me incentive, but kept me coming back. And I've made some points here that I think were the key to kind of the success of engagement in this project that we run. They need to, you know, start where you're at. A social project, this doesn't just mean going into the colleges and actually, you know, sourcing your students, but it means starting at appropriate levels. We had help from professional artists, and it's literally creating a space where you can network and build something greater than yourself. You know, calling upon inexperienced students and expecting them to work independently, even if it is your dream job, I think is asking the impossible. You might have wanted to be a pilot from the day you were born, but if I put you in a plane tomorrow, what can I say? Good luck on that one. You know, the goal is to remove barriers and to create simplicity to drive the engagement. And talking about overcoming barriers, you know, students in general have less control over their own time, which might sound strange because we often get stereotyped with an abundance of free time. However, the agency to actually timetable your own evenings isn't necessarily the norm. Many people have siblings, classes, responsibilities, and the reality is you just might not want to ask your parents to help you travel somewhere after they've been at work all day. And I think the fact that travel expenses were covered was a key pillar of independence, which helped cultivate a free environment that truly was a new experience that I'd never had under an educational facility. And then, of course, the benefits. This keeps engagement up. This project was the company perks, if you will, of my last year of college, especially in our changing environment. You know, employment, technology, education, and community. is all undergoing drastic evolution. And in times of such uncertainty, I personally believe there's an aspirations crisis because we're not sure where we're going to fit in today's society. Where there's a lack of aspiration, there's a lack of motivation. To have a project like ours that is successful, you need a well-established set of benefits for the students to make them excited about this project and give them something back. It was important that I felt extremely valued during this whole thing. And I'd add that a benefit is not what you'd want for them as an educator or a provider, but a benefit for a teenager. And amazingly, in R1, that was creative freedom to design whatever you wanted. You know, it's publicity, it's experience, and it's freedom. But more about what it actually gave me as an individual circumstance. It really helped build my confidence, but it helped me actually get into university. Having an edge to your portfolio is so important as it's competitive in a different sense to other academic courses. Projects like this and similar give a new secret weapon to applications. And that's the part I'd really like to focus in on. It's raising aspirations and opening up new opportunities, but not in a metaphorical sense. This kind of work might be different between getting a second look at your dream university and not. And that's what we really want for the students of Ipswich, you know. We want them to go on and increase their chances of what they can do. And I think the last point I'd like to make is I'd like to talk about how this project created a free third space for me. And this is really important because for those of you who don't know, a third space refers to a social environment distinct from both the home, the first place, and the work, the second place. They're important because they foster a sense of belonging by encouraging connection beyond professional and family relationships, which may feel mandatory in your everyday life. The catch of our current display of third spaces is the pay-to-win element. If you want to bump into a friend you wouldn't necessarily invite out or get a new connection offline or outside, you might have to shell out £6 for a coffee or a pint even to be allowed to sit indoors. You know, where are the seating areas in shopping centres? Where are the places that people can actually go? And the great thing about this project was it created that free third space for me, where not only was it free for me to access, but it was also free for me to travel there. And that's exactly why I think young people should get involved. You know, we are the future, we are the next responsible hands who will be giving you parking tickets and making sure you have food to pick up from the shelves and delivering your grandchildren even. You know, we should be placemaking and volunteering because we're not to be displaced. We are part of, so young people should get involved in cool stuff and throw yourselves into experiences because they help you in the future. Thank you.
I absolutely can't top that, and I'm not going to try. So I just want to say that Nikki and I are both around all day today. We'll be at Christchurch Mansion tonight as well. We'd love to talk to you about our project and our experiences. This project was funded by National Lottery Heritage Fund. Here we are, here's some of our partners. Yeah, it's been a truly collaborative project. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm so proud of our young people. Well done.
Thank you.
Hello. I want to start with a question. What does it feel like to walk through a town and see nothing that reflects you? No spaces that welcome you. No signs that say you're safe here. No places where you can be just you, without being watched, without being judged, without being moved along. And for many young people, that is their daily reality. They navigate towns and cities that were designed by adults for adults, spaces that speak a language that they have never been taught to speak. And in that silence, they hear a message loud and clear. They hear this message, you don't belong here. And I want to challenge that this morning in the time that we've got and to keep that question in our thoughts. What does it feel like to walk through a town where you don't see yourself? And to understand why that matters, I want you just to forgive me for a minute because I'm going to get a little bit philosophical. Because we have to start with something deeper. Something that just transcends age, background, transcends postcode, circumstance. A need that sits at the heart of every human being, whether we're 14 years old or 40 years old, whether we're designing space or just trying to find a space in that. And that need is the need to belong. We all have this inbuilt need to connect and to belong. Maybe for you, belonging looks like being part of a family unit or a company or a firm. Maybe it's sports clubs, it's activities, it's faith groups, it's culture. You might have many places where you feel safe and where you belong. But that's not always the case for everyone, especially our young people. See, belonging is more than just about being present. It's about being seen valued and being seen and feeling safe. And for young people, those especially maybe navigating mental health challenges, identity questions, or social pressures, those spaces around them can either reinforce isolation or foster connection. And at 4YP, we are a local charity based here in Ipswich, but cover work across the whole of the county of Suffolk. We work with hundreds of young people across the year. And time again, they tell us this, that they just want places where they can be themselves, places that don't judge them, that reflect their identities, and that invite them in. And hopefully you have probably got more experience in this than I have, but often urban planning treats young people as a problem to be solved and managed, rather than a population to be engaged. We see spaces designed for you, things like skate parks, youth zones, schools even, designed for young people, but rarely with young people. And when young people are consulted, often it can be tokenistic. A survey here and there, a conversation, a tick box exercise to say, yeah, we've consulted with young people. But it's not a real partnership. It's not giving real power to young people. But there is hope, and Ipswich is a brilliant example of that, as Kath and Nikki have just shared. Now, Ipswich is proud to be recognised as a town of youth social impact, thanks in part to its commitment to the I Will movement, which is a UK-wide initiative that champions youth voice, leadership and social action. And through the I Will movement, young people in Ipswich are not just participating in their community, they're shaping it. From youth-led campaigns to civic partnerships and engagement projects, Ipswich is showing what happens when young people are given the tools, the trust and the platform to lead. Now, what is being cultivated here in Ipswich is actually quite hard to package neatly, and I think that's a good thing. It's not about creating a new programme that young people fit neatly in, or starting new projects. It's actually a shift in mindset, a cultural change across sectors, the voluntary sector, the public sector, the private sector, where all of these people are giving young people a voice and power. And it's a new way of thinking and of doing. Now, some of us have to get to the reality and admit that we're not young anymore. I have to face up to the fact that I'm not cool, and I don't speak a young person's language. I have limited experience of what it means to be a teenager in 2025. But what I can do is help to create an organisation and a space where that voice is given the time and authority. So what does it look like when young people are truly involved? Now, at 4YP, over the last couple of years, we've been developing a new youth hub here in Ipswich, and that has been in partnership with Ipswich Borough Council through the Towns Regeneration Fund, who have funded a new building for us. Our current space is a beautiful but very impractical Victorian building. It served us well, but it's far from ideal. And so for the last 2 years, we have been exploring what would it look like for us to develop and move into a new space. And from the very beginning, young people have been a key part of that. They've helped shape the concept of what a safe space means to them. They've met and worked with architects. They've created mood boards, mapped out ideas, and now they're moving into the stage of choosing furniture and colours and the aesthetics. We've been fortunate enough to partner with Make Architects in London, and we have run co-design workshops where young people map their emotional responses to space. spaces where they can feel safe. We've seen young people lead walkabouts around the town with architects pointing out blind spots, pointing out unsafe corners and missed opportunities. And we have seen, as they've worked alongside the architects, to how spaces can be transformed and what their relationship in that space really looks like. And those insights are pure gold for planners and designers. If you ask the team at Make, they'll tell you they've learned as much from the young people as what the young people have learned from them. But I want to invite up Matthew for you. Matthew is one of the young people who's been involved with 4YP for many years now, and Matthew has been key in being involved in shaping this new youth hub. So Matthew, do you want to come up and share a little bit about what your involvement has looked like?
Thank you. So, yeah, as mentioned, it was a couple of years ago I was invited by 4YP to take part in a sort of design, like coming up with ideas about what young people wanted for 4YP with the new building. And we all, and all the young people involved, we all went up to London and we all got to design models of, and mood boards, of course, of like what we wanted within and the new building, and also like the designs and how different it is, because us young people, we love to be creative, but it's hard to show it and that. And so when we were with Make, it was kind of easy to really express what we wanted inside. And one of my designs, which as you can see is a library, because I do love reading. And I decided to do something different with it, which was to make it in a shape of a triangle, because I don't think anyone has ever entered a triangle room, and I know I haven't. And yeah, it was a really lovely time to get to go to London and work with Make, and get to work with incredible people to put our designs and into like a real place and that. And it's really hard to like describe like how like all of it got together. So we have a video to show you the whole experience of what it was like, and hope you enjoy it. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, it was really, really good fun actually, being in London and getting to work with them, as I said. And with this move to the new building, it will definitely open up like a whole new opportunity for 4YP, and hopefully welcome more young people. And the building will be on the waterfront, and it's great that it's going to be there, because people who walk down there, like young people who come from like Suffolk New College and Suffolk University, or even coming through like town and that, it's important to find a place that they can just go in, and whether it's to have a talk with people and that. And that is what I have always loved about 4YP, is being able to go in and talk and just feel opened as well. And also it's great as well, the new building will also help with the networking side of things, like people can just go, yeah, if you go down the waterfront, you can go here and meet incredible people and even get involved with different activities that they do. And yeah, it's just such a privilege that I was part of it, and I just hope that this is also going to be a big beginning for us at 4YP. So, yes, so thank you.
Matthew's voice isn't just a testimony to being involved in something. That is evidence of what happens when young people really are given power. They've been able to develop this building you can see behind us, which is just a few doors down from where we're currently sat, into what's going to be a new youth hub that's going to have spaces that are fit and designed for young people, places that are safe. That impact is profound. Spaces become more inclusive. They become more used and more loved. Young people end up feeling pride and agency and connection. And the wider community benefits as well. Communities benefit from reduced antisocial behaviour, increased civic engagement, and stronger intergenerational ties. As Matthew has shared, that is true belonging. So here's my challenge to you, planners, designers, policymakers, funders in the room. Let's not just consult with young people, let's collaborate with them. Let's partner with youth organisations who know how to engage meaningfully. Let's create flexible, creative spaces for youth input, not just formal meetings. And most of all, let's believe that young people have something valuable to say, and give them the power to say it. If we want our cities and our towns to be places where young people thrive, we must let them help shape it. They have to be able to see themselves in it. Because belonging isn't built by accident. I believe it is designed together with young people. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, so much. I think one of the slides there says working out what's cool and not cool. So let's see if we can achieve that by tomorrow afternoon. Could the four of you come back to the chairs here, and we'll have a kind of just conversation, and then we'll probably have time to have some Q&A from the audience. Remind me how microphones and things are working.
This microphone under Alexa.
Is this? Yeah. I pass one of those. Is that remarkably efficient? And is that on as well?
Hello?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it, but that's amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. It was really inspirational from all four of you. Just really pleased, Nikki, to hear your mention of third spaces, and we'll sort of come back to that in a second. Matthew, you mentioned about working in the Make project, about how being in that project, and that they had there were things that made it easier to articulate your ideas and sort of get them out of you and sort of participate. Can you sort of say a little bit about how that worked, and what was it that made it easier and more comfortable for you?
So getting involved, as I said, well, with the designs and that, I mean, I've always had like ideas, creativity. I think all us young people have always had ideas of what we want to create, but it's always hard to explain it. And when I heard that Make were going to go down and they wanted people to help with coming up with ideas for designs and that. I just thought, oh, that would be brilliant for me because I've always had ideas, and to be able to talk about them and also to put them down on paper as well and design and mood boards to come up with ideas for like what we wanted was absolutely brilliant. And it's great because at 4AP we always never judge anyone. We're always welcomed everyone, and that's always been important. And for me, because when I have creative ideas, I do worry that people would judge me, and that's always been with me. And I even do judge myself sometimes with whatever I come up with. So to be involved and to not be judged and have an approval by saying, yes, that's brilliant, and that is what actually helped me to be able to come out. And yeah.
Amazing, thank you. And wonder, Nikki, if you might be able to answer the same question actually in terms of, what was it about, work that Kath and her team, what did they do that made it easier for you?
What did you do? Talk about Hannah. Well, do you know what? Hannah just made everything really, really easy and really, really approachable. And if there were people who were struggling on designs, because it was pretty intense, a lot of the work we did, we were meeting with professionals on a Zoom call from a town that a lot of us has never heard of, and then we're moving on to publishing designs, and then we're getting meetings from the Heritage Fund coming down. And so it was like a really intense working environment, but Hannah just made it so that we didn't have that pressure on our shoulders directly, there's that separation. We're still students, and there were students who were even younger than I was involved in the project. So she made sure not to push them into something that they didn't want to do. When people were struggling on certain days, everybody has low energy, it would be, okay, what can we do? Let's push this line back and approaching things with just kindness and humanity. We're all just human beings. We all have our good days and bad days, and keeping the students as students, not putting too much pressure on them. That's what they did.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe a question for, I will get to you guys as well, but as you've both kind of been through these really special, unusual programs, do you, when you walk around Ipswich or indeed other towns, cities, do you look at things differently now? Is there a different perspective that you bring to just walking around in a town or city, and kind of what does that mean to you?
Well, it certainly gives me a different perspective because at university there are a lot of people who are, we're obviously all at the same level. There are people who don't have any experience under their belt, and it's really a challenge to then get your foot through the door because lots of employers right now want you to already have the experience as soon as you come out as an undergrad. So it gives you an edge, literally, in the employability market. And to be honest, that's one of the most important things in my brain at the minute, and a lot of young people around me, finding work and finding employment. And it makes me think when I look around other places, I see how limiting it can be. Especially like my friends from Southend and stuff, there are no community projects for them to get involved in, and if there are, it's limited by the safety factors and stuff. So it makes me feel really grateful, and it makes me want to come to things like this and encourage people to start up their own social projects, which is why I wanted to share with you guys some success pointers, because I want more of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, picking up on what you said about you getting your foot through the door and like not having more community projects, there should be more because it is hard. And when I look through town now, because I've lived in Ipswich all my life, and I've seen it change in such a dramatic different way. Like there isn't much for young people here, and there should be, because young people are important as always, and they need places to go where they can really show like their different talents, because us young people have all got different skills, and it's hard to really go somewhere and to be able to show what we can do because there's not many out there. And it is so important to really bring back those communities, and and get everyone back together and just try and make it how it should be, because that, for me, is really important in every aspect. When I look through town or even anywhere, it's just, I think for me, it's definitely finding that place for everyone.
Amazing, thank you. I'll maybe pass to you guys now. Rebekah, you touched at one point about the value of the projects and the return that you get, the benefits. Nationwide, we're sort of, every single day we're hearing about, the housing crisis and the need to build quickly and all that sort of stuff. And, the whole couple of days is about, trying to ensure that we do those things well. But there's this intense pressure, isn't it, to just get moving. So how, if you cornered a councillor against the wall who's under pressure to deliver and get those planning applications approved, etc., what's your sales pitch for the benefit, the difference, the lasting change that these sorts of initiatives bring about?
Yeah, I think, so coming from a youth work perspective, of course we're here talking about, urban design and buildings, but actually one of the biggest crises we see in youth work and with young people at the moment is the mental health crisis. And actually the two can and should be working together. And so for things where actually good, affordable, secure and safe housing is so important to our families, and having safe spaces for young people and for families to go, those third spaces that we've talked about are vital. And so all of that feeds into, making sure that we are healthy and making sure that we can thrive and we can give back to our communities where we can find connection and belonging. And so actually delays on buildings, delays on planning, all of that kind of stuff just adds, I believe, to those crises that we're seeing in holistically across people, not just in the element of the building, but actually across people's lives. And so that would be my push to councillors of like, actually, this is bigger than just providing a house. This is providing somewhere safe. This is supporting mental health. This is supporting family life. This is way bigger.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure the Deputy Mayor can report back on that. So, Kath, did you want to pick that point up at all, or?
Yeah, I can do. Actually, yesterday I was part of a student session with Charlotte Norman over there in the audience, who's worked on us with the Stoke Bridge project. So we were with students from Holbrook Academy. We invited one of the councillors along who actually represents the county council and the borough council, so that was quite interesting. We were looking at Cardinal Park locally, which is a leisure park, and we took the students there to talk through. It was just like the blue sky kind of design process, and children of that age would never really have that opportunity. We've talked about a few instances today where a few young people in Ipswich have had that opportunity. But just kind of breaking down the design process, and Charlotte was kind of setting out that, yes, there are technical bits to this, but it starts with the human bit and it ends with the human bit. There's lots of human bits in between as well. And there was a really good mix of people in the room, actually, as well as the students. And it was just fantastic to literally just be talking to those people as equals. I think that's the important thing. Before I started this project, I didn't have a ton of experience working directly with young people. My background is in museums. And as I get more and more involved in change-making projects in Ipswich, it feels like it's a genuine consultation process. You can make change quite easily, actually, in Ipswich. There's so much impact that you can make. And this process that we're beginning to set out through this youth social action work feels transformative, not just for the young people, but for the professionals involved as well. So yeah, please do come and talk to us about that during the day.
Thank you. Maybe one other question here, and then I'll sort of open to the floor. Sort of advice that you, so thinking back to maybe early days of your projects
starting with a kind of well-meaning intention of involving young people, but but then how do you start, basically? How do you start? So you're sitting there, so say 3 years ago, the beginning of the very early days of the Wolsey project. You did have a strategic objection at the beginning of involving young people, but it's like, and then day two, it's like, okay. How did you actually start formulating the projects and finding those young people?
It's a really good question. Casting my mind back, actually, we gave ourselves time. That's a really important aspect of things. Wolsey 550 came from the Business Improvement District, so there's a network there. But it's not a natural network for young people and involvement, obviously. We knew that we wanted we wanted to work with every single school in Ipswich, which was a massive kind of cliff to face. And again, we gave ourselves time for schools engagement. We worked with Hannah, who we mentioned, who was an ex-history teacher and also a parent. So she brought terrific experience and also just tenacity like I've never met. And we have worked with every single school and we've engaged with young people at every single opportunity. And we worked with the Ipswich Social Mobility Alliance, which is it's not an entity as such yet, but it's a group, it's a coalition of youth action organisations across the town, of which I think there are possibly 200. And bringing those voices together in different ways and actually trying to make sense of the main threads, the main problems that we're all facing. It's a really, really interesting process in itself. And 4YP were part of that. Hand over to Beck.
Yeah, it's funny because being a youth organisation, you think, well, that's just your bread and butter. Like, of course you involve young people. But actually, it's harder than that because you have to be really deliberate about it and not just think it automatically happens or, it just happens by accident. And so there is trial and error. There's things that we do that you think, oh, do you know what, we've planned all of that and we didn't actually really consult properly with young people or involve them in the process at all, And so we're having to challenge that and having a culture in our organisation of challenging one another as staff. Being part of the Ipswich Social Mobility Alliance, that is another great kind of external challenge where you're meeting with other leaders of organisations and saying, what are you doing to do this in your organisation and learning from one another. And so it's been a huge journey. I think as well it takes time. It's not a quick fix. It does take time and investment. And it's funny, I was speaking to our architect from Make, and he said the journey they've been on it has been incredible because they've done consultation with young people when they've built schools, but they said, well, until they've done this, they hadn't done anything which really put the power into young people's hands. And they, as architects, had to learn to work differently. Greg, our architect, said, do you know what, we went in there and sat with the meeting expecting the ideas just to flow, and it didn't happen. And so they had to think differently and work differently about what space are we inviting them into, what room are we holding these meetings in, is it welcoming to young people? Lots of youth organisations say, we're going to put young people on our boards, but you're sitting in a stuffy room with middle-aged people talking about boring finances, and that's not an environment young people feel comfortable in. And so, we have to keep just challenging each other on what can we do to create those spaces where young people can feel they've got power.
Thank you. I have a sort of challenge for Matthew and Nikki. So you have 150 designers here from around the country and a few from overseas. Would you have any questions for them insofar as, okay, you guys have been designing towns and cities for, in some cases, 10, 20, 40 years. Any questions that you might have of them, and maybe someone brave can put their hands up to answer about, why on earth are things done this way, or how might you like to challenge us as a profession? Yeah, no, that's fine. You can always come back to you in a few minutes.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I thought I'd take this one because I mentioned a little bit about this in what I had written, but you know, I suppose my question would be, you know, where are the seating areas in shopping centres? That's actually a really big one for me, because I remember I used to go there with my nieces and my nephews, and we'd all sit in there and eat our meal deals on the benches. And I just feel like there are too many vacant spaces. Why is everywhere open plan? You know, talking about comfortability and stuff. You know, sitting in a warehouse isn't my idea of comfortable. And I'd just like to ask, yeah, where are the seating areas? Where are the social spaces that are, you know, for anyone and for everyone?
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you. I can give you a few minutes to ponder. So we have, I think we have till 10:30, so 13 minutes. It's time to have some questions from the floor, and certainly would like someone to be brave and answer Nikki's question about where on earth all the seating is. But indeed, any other questions that any of you have for our panel? There's one at the back. Rami, okay. Oh, it's this one. Is that okay? Thank you.
Hi, I was going to ask, thinking about what, I'm talking to Nikki and Matthew, before you started getting involved in the projects, did you have aspirations for like the future and what you wanted to do? And has that changed since you've been involved in the project? And has it changed your trajectory for like what you want to do in the future, or a career, or like your aspirations for what you want to do in the future?
Funnily enough, yes. I'm not going to overplay it, you know, it didn't completely reroute my entire life. But I'm a traveller, so my opportunities were like very different to other people's. And to be honest, I'd never even met anyone who had gone to university until I was about 15, 16 years old. Education is not at the forefront of mindset, at least where I came from. So it really made me feel like I could get involved in projects that were bigger than myself, you know, not just local things. It made me think about, okay, maybe I can get involved with the council, maybe my ideas are good enough, and maybe I am intelligent enough, you know, despite whatever implications other people might put on you. So I would say, yeah, this had a really big impact into raising my aspirations. And at the time, I didn't even really realise, you know, 16, 17, you're not thinking about the future, but now when I see that I get opportunities like this, and it's given me a lot of food for thought that I can give to other people as well, I can see my own benefits. And yeah, it really has changed my ideas about the future.
Yeah, well, I always think about the future. I do. I always ask myself, like, what's it going to be like, and that. But it's definitely, I mean, for me, I've always set myself a goal, like, with anything that I take part in, and I mean, and I've already achieved like so much in that, and I definitely want to do a lot more with 4YP, like going down the line. I just want to be able to take it like far with them, and be able to like be able to bring my opinions and my ideas, and because being part of 4YP again, I've always had that fear of like expressing like myself and even my own opinions, because people do sometimes, like, they always judge at everything that you would say and that, and for me, my future now is to like continue to like share my ideas and to be able to share my opinions as well, and that's what I want to do going forward. And I just hope from here and that to now, but from now to moving on to the future, I hope to continue on with it.
Thank you. I think there's a hand over here.
Thank you. I've got a question, but I just want to say I wish I had your public speaking skills when I was your age. Like, fantastic. My question is, speaking of the third place, and I know, Nikki, you mentioned benches, etc., but in this, imagine you had a street or an area that's going to be redesigned. To make it more comfortable for young people, what are some like specific things you'd want to see in that space? Also, you could say what could be a bad thing to see in that space as well.
Okay, so are we thinking like interior spaces or exterior spaces, like outside?
Both, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I suppose I'd like to focus on inside spaces because I feel like they're obviously like park benches and stuff. There's plenty of areas where you can sit outside. But particularly in the winter, and particularly tying back to mental health crises as well, it's raining, it's cold, you know, you don't want to just sit outside. You're often trapped indoors and you're actually reduced in freedom. And it can be very isolating. So in interior spaces, I suppose what I'd like to see is more areas where you're allowed that are free. You know, you get moved along for not paying VAT on your coffee or whatever if you take the to-go cup. So I'd like to see more things that are free. I also like beanbags because they're really comfortable and I think they're quite relaxed. And I suppose social seating areas, you know, it's quite unusual to particularly want to sit next to someone who you don't know. I don't know if any of you catch the tube, but you're typically going to sit a couple seats along. But I like these ideas of like round benches, and at my university, NUA, I'll just mention we have vertical seating, which you can climb all over. And I think that creates a really nice environment where it's like combining play and formal areas, and it's promoting like a sense of communication just in the actual design of the fact that it's vertical. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Any other, there's one up on the top. Thanks.
That's really loud. Firstly, just really great to hear about your projects. And I think something I sort of took away is how important it is to have that ownership and influence over your own space. And like talking about sort of age range you were looking at, it's like 14 to 20. And I was just kind of thinking about whether you consider like the versatility and like resilience of your projects. Like 5 years isn't that long in the, like, I guess the time, and like how you continue to engage like the new generation that comes in every couple of years, how they can continue to have that influence on your space. And I guess like any suggestions if you're like designing a school, how you would continue to engage new generations as they come in.
It's a really great question, and it is something that we have considered. And one of the things the building that we're building at the moment is just at the stage where we're just about to go out to contractors to get the construction starting. And we're now sort of still tweaking some of the interior parts of it to make sure that it's changeable. And so thinking around artwork, thinking about where walls are that isn't going to maybe restrict future use and, like you say, safeguard that against, you know, future generations that might want to change things up and be different. So we're working into that so that we've not got permanent structures in there that can't be changed. And I think as well, it's just creating the structure in us as an organisation to keep growing that kind of team. So we had a group of young people involved in this planning for the last 2 years, and we called them the Founders Group. But they're all, you know, not going to insult Matthew, but they're all getting older, and they're all going to kind of move on, and they're going to graduate from our services as a charity, rightfully so. But we need to, like you say, we need to keep bringing through those younger ones. And so we do that. We have various different groups, and we try and identify those in there who, not just the loud voices, but those that are quiet voices as well. And we identify those that maybe would like to get involved, and we try and pull them into the group so that it's an ever-changing group rather than one set of young people that do that. But it's a really great challenge because it's a really good point you make that it'd be really hard not to do that. So, yeah.
Hi, Todd, can I jump in? Todd, hello. I'll answer it anyway. I wanted to address Nikki's question about seating. And I now understand you were talking about the internal shopping centres, enclosed shopping centres. And the fundamental answer is there's no public seating there because they don't want you there. And they particularly don't want young people gathering in shopping centres because they know you don't have any money. And the reason a shopping centre is built and enclosed and has security people is that their whole reason for existence is to make money. That's factual, but it's also quite a cynical view, because they're also part of the community, and they should be, they're a very big part of the community. They make a lot of money out of the community, so they should be giving something back. And I can see that in Ipswich you have a very active BID, a business improvement district, going, and I assume that the shopping centre owners and a lot of the shops are a part of that. So that is something that you should feed back to them through your connections, through 4YP and through the BID, and point out that you're the consumers of the future, if not the present, and that actually they would be supporting everybody, making a much more inclusive space. I mean, a lot of elderly people don't have a lot of money, as well as a lot of young people. Everybody needs to sit down, making dwell space and making attractive dwell space inside is really good. And at a certain point, somebody's going to go and buy a cup of coffee. So it is important, and it's about inclusive design, and it's what most of us work towards. Obviously, it's much easier to embrace that in external, genuinely public spaces. But even then, we get a lot of resistance from people, even like councillors, who will say, oh, we don't want to have any seating because we don't want drunks to lie around on the seats. We want barriers put up so no one can sleep on the seats. We want all those anti-skateboard things. So even when you get seats, they can be unappealing seats, or they can be put individual seats that you can't move, so you can't meet as a group. So inclusive urban design is all about breaking down those barriers and making spaces that young people can gather in. And also, I used to give a lecture that I call Bums on Seats, which is just about expressing the need for overcoming those resistances and those negativities by simply saturating public spaces with seating. Fixed seating, movable seating, seating with backs, very important for older people. You need something to lean on. Perching on the edge of a seat's quite hard as you get older. And the best way to do that is to just make a lot of seating. Therefore, if there's a homeless person or somebody who's had too much to drink having a snooze at one end of the seating, it doesn't alienate a group of parents and kids who can gather at the other end, or a bunch of young people being a bit loud doesn't alienate some elderly people who want to sit and have a chat. The only way to do that is to make an awful lot of seating. So, pressurise your council to do that. And the other thing is also covered spaces outside. Now, nobody's going to build enclosed free spaces, but creating covered spaces like, old bandstand type things where people can gather in the rain and in winter if they're feeling brave, etc. So, there's a variety of stuff like that. So feed that back to your local authority. We have a representative with us here, so Deputy Mayor, I'm sure, is listening. But also, most particularly, feed it back to your shopping centre owners.
Thank you so much for the clarity on that. And I love that you brought up actually like security guards being outside shopping centres, because like for Cult theorises about how surveillance impacts your behaviour, and I actually think it cultivates an environment where we're put on the back foot and like I feel defensive, and people are actually watching me walk around the Pandora shop, which you might see on the high street, because of my age and because of maybe I dress creatively or whatever they think about me. You are surveilled. So yeah, I'd love to see more inviting spaces, and thank you for clarifying all of my questions. You did a great job.
Thank you. I think we have 1 minute, maybe wondering if there are any final nuggets of advice from any of the four of you. We obviously want to spread our fantastic Ipswich ideas elsewhere. That's the reason for getting together, isn't it? Anything that you might like to conclude on?
Actually, after a long thought, I actually do know what I want to question for the people in the room.
That'd be perfect. Let's finish on that. That'd be terrific.
So, as you were saying about the seating and that, I would like to build on that more I would love there to be a place where you can, because loads of us have always had thoughts, and it's always hard to think, isn't it? Most places are busy, and it's hard to really think to yourself because it's always so busy around. And for me, I always like to be in a place that's sort of quiet and that, and it's nice to have a place you can go to actually think or even to read and that. So I would love there to be, if possible, a place where it's made for people who can just go and to relax and just try and like not have to worry about noises and that, because sometimes I struggle to be in places that are noisy and that. So a place that's made for to relax and also to have a nice quiet as well. That's what I would like to see in our town, or in anywhere pretty much.
Thank you so much. I'll hand briefly back to Paul in a second, just to go through housekeeping for the rest of the morning. But if we could all just express our thanks to Kath, Rebekah, Nikki and Matthew.